You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You only get to choose which price you pay.
It's not our job to figure out the how, right? It's our job to figure out the why. To take ownership or responsibility is to you to completely forfeit your right to blame. It's not our job to figure out the how, right? It's our job to figure out the why.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And why is this important for you to show up? Like, why is it important for you not to settle? Why is it important for you to put this out in the world? Why?
Yeah.
The how is not actually our job. And we as people get obsessed trying to figure out how. And we'll torment and we'll quit and we'll stop because we haven't figured out how.
Mm-hmm. That's faith.
Yeah, that's the faith, though. That's the whole gift. And again, the exchange of surrendering and giving to, this is who I choose to be. This is what I'm choosing to do. That's you having your puzzle pieces.
Right.
God is going to figure out and show you how to piece those together. And so our job is not to know how to put that puzzle together. Our job is to know what pieces we have and how many pieces sometimes, right? Because in one season of life, you might have 3 pieces. You're like, I think this goes to a puzzle. I think this would fit into, and then fast forward 5 years, you might have, 10 pieces to this puzzle, things that you've worked through, things that you have, skill sets, yada, yada. And then the synchronicities, the coincidences of the divine and you allowing that to happen, it puts those pieces together. And it projects and paints and puts together this masterpiece that it wasn't from you. It wasn't your own doing. It was a co-partnership of what you were able to do because of what is in you and what you are tapped into.
That's so good. That's so good. So we talked about learning to look at the patterns in your life, the frustrations, and maybe learning to identify that that's part of your purpose or it's part of your design. It's calling you to something. Mm-hmm. So when you gain that awareness, now it becomes how do you align it to what your purpose is? Because it's not just enough to recognize the clues. We have to own them and take charge of them.
Right.
So there's that moment when you have the clarity after you've done the searching, you've reflected or you've discovered like, oh, this is a passion of mine. This is a piece of my puzzle. How do we move from that clarity to committing to this is what I'm going to do now. This is who I am.
I would give you one word because that's the first one that comes to mind. So say that again. How do you get from this to this? Say that again.
How do you get from clarity to commitment?
Okay. And I would give you, it's another C word. And I think it comes back to courage.
Yeah.
You have to, you have clarity and this is what I should do. This is what I could do. And then to get to, you said commitment, right? To actually walking that thing out.
Yes.
It's usually courage. And courage is the act of still doing something, being scared, being afraid, right? And I think normally, this podcast, for you to have the clarity of this is something I want to do, this is something that we need to be doing, to actually committing to it. There was somewhere in there to bridge that gap between clarity and commitment that you had to have some active and some actual evidence of courage.
Yeah. Because
that's usually what it takes. Start a business. Ask a girl or a guy for their number. Take them on a date. One day buy a house. Get a car. Mm-hmm. Apply for that job. Clarity is always going to be there. The idea, I should do this. I need to do this. But to actually get on that path, there's some part in that process where you're going to be arguing and battling internally on why you should or why you shouldn't, or both. And then it's going to take you almost still being a little scared and you actually just go and make a commitment.
And I joked earlier about I wanted to delete the first 5 episodes, but the reality of the situation is I may not look at that as full courage just because when we started this, it was we're just going to record and then we're just going to drop the video unedited, no super raw, you know, because it was like I was eliminating that barrier of like, because I'm still battling with like the perfectionism side.
Right.
So it's like, it's not going to be good enough. I didn't have the confidence that I could put my thoughts into articulate words. But looking back on it, like I am really grateful that Jordan Peterson talks about it as scaling your dragon to something you can contend with.
Right.
So for me, that I had to scale it down enough to where it was just record, put it, post it, record, post it. No intros, no. But by doing that, it increased by me having the evidence of, okay, now I know I can put it out there. Now I can level up and say, okay, now we're going to add intros. Now we can have guests, you know?
Right.
So I think that's big too. Like, courageous doesn't mean you have to go slay the biggest dragon immediately. It's, are you even willing to just take that first step?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or, I mean, encourage, and a lot of it, dude, it's waking up the next day and giving yourself the permission, having the courage to go out and try again. You
know, honestly, like even today, like without Jeremy, you know, like it's kind of tricky because, like I said, like he does the intros, right. And he's so good at articulating, and he's very good at saying everything very crisp. And like now that the pressure was on me, like. Dude, I'll be honest. Like, I didn't sleep very good last night because it was like, you know, I gotta. But here we are. You keep going. You know,
that's right.
Am I comfortable? Not necessarily. But something that does help is having somebody that is willing to venture into that with you. You know. So I'm grateful for you being here and doing that. So, what would you say to somebody that has gone through the discovery phase and they know what they're drawn to, but they don't know like how to take the first step? Like, what would you encourage them with?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of the Allergic to Average, in a sense, like kind of the process that we like to help people to stay on track with. And I don't think it's just a one-time thing. So we normally talk about like for us to go from a state of discovery, what you're talking about. The next step we talk about is once you've discovered certain things, how do you empower that? Like, how do you actually build into that and lay some roots that get established? And then once you get there, a lot of people want to stop, but how do we then challenge ourselves to continue to discover more or not to be stagnant with what we felt like we discovered and now we've built it? And then, you know, so we always discover, then we go into empowering it, and then we go into challenge yourself to now give that to the world or give that to the next person, or challenge yourself to, okay, now that I've hit this level, what will it take to get to this level? Mm-hmm. And so I would say, so if you talked about if they've already discovered something or maybe these puzzle pieces or a call, even if it's just one thing, or maybe it's a skill set that, you know, like for me at 17, starting to do public speaking, you know, eventually I started to look at that, even though I didn't think I would be like a motivational speaker. I would start to see there's favor. There's a little bit of favor there. Like people asking me, and so there's a season where you start to empower and really, again, build into those things. Like there was a season, this was back in like 2014. This is before Allergic to Average, maybe 2013. And this is when I first started to get into mindset, the power of thought, you know, scripture, what it said, science, what it said, psychology, what does it say? Like all these things. And I was in discovery mode. But then I spent the next like probably year and a half like in empowerment mode. Right? Like I'm really learning these things. And then eventually it came to the point where I felt like, because I was a product of learning how to think different, and I was going through discovering and then now empowering myself. Well, the challenge became, how do you take this message to the world of what you now know? And I was like, what? Right? And so wherever you're at, like I said, it constantly repeats. In the last 10 years of Allergic to Average and just that business, I mean, there's been new discoveries year by year. There's been new seasons of empowering. Let's build this product, social media. Let's, social gatherings, connections. And then it's always gone back to how do we challenge other people to be this message for themselves, to be this. And, so that would be what I would say is like, how do you start finding ways to empower what you've discovered is a part of you.
Yeah.
And then once you get into building and getting more familiar and getting more confident, the universe is going to bring you opportunity that's going to allow you to be challenged with what you do with that purpose. Because that thing, and I say this about life in general, but that thing, that gift, that purpose that you're finding, you're attaching, it's for you, right? Just like life, it's for you, but it's not all about you.
Right.
And I think that's where we all get it's for you. What you're learning, it's for you, but it's so much bigger than just you. So the more you find out, the more you tap into, you're realizing that this is for you, but it's not all about you. Ego says it's all about you.
Right.
Ego says everything you're going through, everything you're learning, your puzzle pieces, how does this all serve me? At the end of the day, it will, but it serves you much better whenever it has service to others as well.
Do you think that that's a part of the process, though? Because I feel like for me, how old were you whenever you started getting into mindset?
I was probably 23.
Okay.
21? No. I was like, 22, 23.
Okay.
Maybe 23, 24.
Gotcha. It's a bit, but there's through my discovery process and diving into podcasts and diving into the word, and there was a season where it was about me because it was reshaping who I was.
Right.
But I think what happened there for a little bit was I don't know, help me on this, but I don't know if that was necessarily ego or if that was an essential part of the ego that I had to go through. But there had to be a point once I took in the knowledge and I had the conversations or I studied, and then applying it, but I still was carrying that mindset of it was still about me. Cause I think that's also an issue with always watching self-help stuff is there's a point to where you watch enough of it and you're always trying to fix yourself, but when is it enough? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so do you think that to sum that all up, do you think that there is an essential season of where your ego has to come in and say, you know what, I actually needed to step back and take some time for me? Is that still ego or is that?
Mm-mm. No, I wouldn't. Actually, ego says you don't need time for you. Ego says you're too busy to take time for you. You need to get this done, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's actually a higher invitation into love because it's like the principle of first. I talk about the world of you versus the world around you. And the world of you, and that's when you're taking these seasons where it really is about you. Because if you don't find clarity or mastery in that topic, in that season for you, the world won't ever get to experience it through you. So it is about you, right? In that moment. And so, I don't think that's actually a service of love to yourself, to peel back and to not feel the need, because ego wants to keep you busy. Ego wants to not slow down and show that there's an importance. It's actually saying you're wasting your time by what are you doing? Meditating? What are you doing? That's what ego says. But for you to say, no, I need to actually understand this for me. I need to actually build some roots in this way of being and believing, because that's what's actually shaping the world of you and your now new beliefs, understandings, perspective. So you are then able to take that after that season of where it was for you. Then you get out of, okay, it's for me. Now it's the season. God starts to show you, universe open up opportunities where, hey, that was for you, but now realize it's not all about you.
Yeah.
How are you going to help others? Because now that you got it for you, you can give it to others. Mm-hmm. But if we don't have, again, something for ourselves, we can't demonstrate that or give that to the world. And so,
that's something that we brought up in the past was, do you know who Jay Shetty is? Mm-hmm. So his definition of purpose is using your passions in the service of others. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest part is, so like what I'm trying to communicate, like stepping out of that for me phase. Whenever I stepped out of that and it was like, okay, this is what I know about myself. I like video content. I'm acquainted with social media at the time, but I was looking at everybody else, like how they could, I was stuck in that it's me, like I need to take this time for me. But when I stepped out of that, I still had that mindset of it's me. So like, how are these people serving me? And so I had to like break out of that.
Right.
And like switch that around. It's like, okay, I took time for myself. I know how I operate. I know how I tick. How do I spin that and take care of other people? Use what I have.
Right.
And to serve others.
That's, yeah. And that, again, Matthew, I think 7, and this is literally the golden rule. And so much of that, speaking on purpose, is, you know, there's certain different, I mean, depending on what version you read, but you find this way to, and what scripture talks about is like, look at how you would want to be served and treated, right? I mean, the golden rule, we all know it. And take that invitation, take the initiative to go serve somebody else like that, right? And so in general, I mean, like, that's a really like very simple but not so easy way of being and living, right?
Yeah.
A way of doing. And so I feel like so much of it is like, we're all connected as human beings. We're all children of God. We're all, you know, we got dogs and cats and animals and all the things, but we got human beings, right? And there's a very special, incredible thing about human beings. And as I continue to realize that, you know, and again, the world's way of thinking completely different from God's way of thinking, we are more connected than we are apart. You know, ego constantly wants to detach us from each other. Separation is fear. Love is oneness. Right. So the more I say all that, because the more we do that on the individual level with ourselves, the world of us, the heart, the mind, thoughts, the feelings, the more ground I cover and I continue to build in me, that becomes the whole stance and approach that I go into this 3-dimensional world. Right. David Barrett, a lot of these, they'll talk about the 4th dimension and how that's more real. Right. So that's the imagination, that's spirituality, that's partnering with thought, and how that actually controls everything we see here. Mm-hmm. Right. So getting into that permission for ourselves to be able to stop, see, feel, and then get into what does this look like? What does this feel like more and more as I build within self? That's what actually gives you the permission and ability to go out and build with others. Yeah. Problem is we want to do the opposite, right? It's like me looking at one point, I wanted to be the guy on the stage, you know, making $40,000, $50,000 off of a keynote. Right. But the first time I got $1,000 to speak and I had to deal with all that pressure in prep, it got me looking at the guy that makes that much and thinking, how much do you prepare? How much pressure are you taking on? Right. How do you feel when you have to get on the stage and you're getting paid that much and there's that many people? But
well, and I think that's because that's like that's why we titled our podcast Price of Purpose, because he's paying a price that you're not. Right. But that's his purpose. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get to that level, because I believe you will. But there is a price of that. Yes. There's a cost to that.
There is. Absolutely.
Because of course you want the $50,000 check and then the platform to do that, but we always forget about the other side of it, like what it costs them.
What it costs, to be on that like level of all that. I mean, it costs something, and I think, it is. It's easy, like I always talk about, there's 2 sides to a coin, and it's really easy to just like focus and get obsessed with just one side. And there's always that other side. I mean, I have a nephew who wants a car right now. He doesn't have a license, but he wants a car. I'm like, you do realize, well, if you get a car, you're paying gas, you're paying oil, tires, insurance. But no, you're just thinking of that one side of the coin. I have a car. Yeah. And so that one side of the coin, if I'm on the stage, man, I'm making that kind of money. But what does that mean about my lifestyle and every day when I get up, and like, what am I going to have to do so that I could be on that type of platform.
Time away from family. That's
right. Travel. Yeah. It's a lot more pressure that sometimes we think we want, but we're not actually prepared for it. But going through the process prepares you for it. Right. It makes you, like you were talking about earlier, commitment or clarity to commitment. I was saying how that takes courage, right, to actually get on that path and commit. But I think out of doing that, one of the things that most people want in some shape or form is confidence. I think the only way to get confident is you found clarity, you had the courage to commit, and through that process, you're now confident in this area.
Yeah.
And without it, we have a lot of people that are very, they seem confident, they're selling you confidence, but they're not actually confident in what they're doing or what their product is. They're just trying to make money. They're just trying to
car salesman.
Yeah. So anyway, it plays back into that. So
that's good. So to wrap all this up, so we've gone through how to identify, how to discover, working through that. So now it comes to the action phase, because that's ultimately on you. You've taken the accountability. Now it's on you to act it out. So what's one small shift, again, because it doesn't have to be the biggest battle. It doesn't have to be the biggest dragon. What's one small shift somebody can make today to begin aligning their life with their purpose?
Yeah, I think for me, this goes actually to a quote. I think I need it as a tattoo, okay? And it don't have to be the whole quote, but it's just these two words. And we've been talking about one of them, but it's regardless of where you're at, what life looks like, if your day feels like a success, a failure, I think the courage to continue. Have the courage to continue. I mean, seasons look different, right? Just like in the physical, when we look out, sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's summer, it's fall, spring. Sometimes you want to be outside, and sometimes you're like, oh, that's the last place I want to be. Whatever's going on with the weather, whatever needs to be done that day, we have to have the courage to continue to get it done, right? And I think for us in this overarching, look in life in us, there's going to be those ups and downs, those sacrifices, those great moments, those moments where it's just like, man, I really wish this would turn. I really, whatever it is, spouse, relationships, great seasons, bad seasons, whatever it looks like. But there's something about giving yourself the permission and having the courage to just keep going, man. Keep going.
Right.
Continue. And in a world where people some people can start, people love to start, but most people don't finish.
Yeah.
Right. They don't have the courage to continue, especially when there's those down seasons or moments in that, or things aren't going right, or a pandemic hits. How do I keep going? It's like, have the courage to just keep going and allow yourself to be open to ways. There's always a way, right? And the only way that it gets shut down or shut off to our awareness of it is we don't allow ourselves mentally to see other options. We get so like, it needs to be this way, or it needs to happen this way, or we're so fixated on how it's going to happen that we don't give God or the universe room to let it happen. So yeah, in general, the courage to continue can be on so many different levels, but I think the most important, and if it's somebody that's more on the starter path, is have the courage to continue to be one with yourself, to investigate, to have conversations, to learn more about you and what makes you tick and what makes you passionate, and have the courage to continue to stand for things like love, kindness. Have the courage to, again, sometimes it's wake up and go read that book. It doesn't seem that, have the courage to invest in yourself and have some quiet time. Just have the courage to, because at the end of the day, no one gives you the permission to. It's right. You making a decision and having the courage to say, if I do this, I'm expecting this on the other side. So let me make this investment. And the more that we do that, I feel like the more that we unfold to seeing who we were truly designed to be.
That's so good. Love it. Well, that wraps it up. So I just want to thank you, Matt, for your time.
Absolutely.
Where could people find you?
So personally, Matt _Lee, LE 54. And then Allergic to Average. We are Allergic, the number 2, AVG. That's our site. And then you can use that, or .com. That's our site. And then our handle on everything is Allergic number 2, AVG, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And
his merch is legit too. It fits good. It's not
yes.
not the Port Authority or whatever that
No,
garbage
it's
is.
not Gildan, it's not Hanes, it's not it's not your average gear. And so we got some new drops coming. We have different locations. So if you guys love the message, check out some of our content on social media, check out our online store, and reach out, message if you have any questions. So I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for the opportunity, and let's just keep growing, man.
Let's just keep doing it.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
That's it.